The Greek philosopher Aristotle was one of the first to describe the empirical scientific method. In other words, doing experimentations, looking for facts, testable proof to find out what the reality of the world was really like. But even thousands of years before Aristotle, scribes and architects in ancient Egypt already developed complex mathematical systems that enabled them to calculate the correct proportions and angles, for example, for building pyramid tombs. Ancient papyri and parchment manuscripts were the most important means through which knowledge could be exchanged and passed on in antiquity, and they are incredibly important historical sources for us today. Now, of course, not all scientific discoveries and the passing on of knowledge is, by definition, revolutionary. It is the nature of science to constantly update our knowledge and to pass on and expand it. But sometimes one particular work or one accumulation of the work of scholars can truly have a revolutionary impact. For that reason, today we are here at the special collections of the Leiden University Library. For our case study, we are going to look at the Canon Medicinae by Ibn Sina, or Avicenna, where you see a wonderful folio here on display. The Persian scholar Ibn Sina was a true polymath who studied astronomy, philosophy, but he became especially known for his work in medical science. Compiled by Ibn Sina in 1025, the Canon Medicinae has since then become a standard work for the development of what we call today modern medical science. In the 12th century, this work, which was written in Persia, was translated into Latin, and Ibn Sina became known under the name Avicenna, and this book is still quoted today as a foundation for how, up until the 19th century, medical research and also surgical practices have developed in modern times. This important book has been copied and passed on many times throughout the centuries. Here at the library we have both a handwritten manuscript in 2 volumes and a printed copy. On these printed pages you can see comments written in the margins in multiple languages, including Latin, Greek, Persian and Arabic. This handwritten manuscript was donated to Leiden University by Jesuit scholars. Much attention is often paid to how the finished book of the Canon Medicinae eventually reached medieval Europe. The transfer of knowledge from east to west is often a topic of study. But perhaps even more revolutionary is the transfer of knowledge that lies at the very root of the writing of this book. Ibn Sina cites influences from the works of Aristotle and Galen for his approach to medical science, but his book is an accumulation of medical knowledge and practices from a variety of ancient cultures: Persian, Greek, Egyptian, Indian, and even Chinese. From the early 1st millennium, during the time of the Sasanian Persian Empire, a lot of this knowledge was actively sought out. During the reign of Shapur, it was said that his queen founded a medical university that most believe was located at Kundashapur. Scholars and medical experts from around the then known ancient world were invited to this place to exchange their knowledge, and this tradition continued. In 529, the Byzantine Emperor Justinian persecuted and banished Greek-speaking pagan scholars. They were given refuge in Persia, and they joined, with their knowledge, the already accumulated gathering of mathematicians, medical scholars, astronomers, and philosophers. earliest records we have of medical treatments and surgery and medical tools are from ancient Egypt. Shown here are some of the earliest depictions and descriptions of medical science. Here we see on a temple relief medical tools, surgical instruments, and a papyri that describes surgical methods from as early as 1600 BCE. Sasanian scholars also traveled to India to collect and to learn more about the ancient Ayurvedic medical texts, as well as many encyclopedias written by scholars of the Indian subcontinent. In the ancient world, at nodal points of trade routes and places where people interacted and came together, we sometimes find unintended innovations in ideas and science and knowledge. But in this case, in Sasanian Persia, the collection of this diverse knowledge on medical scholarship especially was a very deliberate act. In the 7th century, the Sasanian Empire came under Islamic rule, but many of its knowledge centers were maintained and continued. And through this, early medieval Persian scholars such as Ibn Sina, but also Mansur, were able to compile books that were rooted in this already gathered knowledge assorted from around the ancient world. Shown here is an early Latin translation of Ibn Sina's work, a Latin manuscript from the 13th century. Now, this manuscript is not at Leiden University, but thanks to modern technology, a digital copy is freely available to access online. As you can see here, each folio is scanned with a lot of details. It's almost as if you have the actual text in front of you. This allows scholars to keep studying this important work, even when they don't have access to the actual manuscripts themselves. And once again, the value of this manuscript is not only its wonderful quality and the beautiful calligraphy, but the continuation of comments and additions that keep being added to this important scientific work. So, Ibn Sina's Canon Medicinae is in itself, of course, a revolutionary work of medical science. But it is also a wonderful example of how important it is for the development of scientific ideas, for different cultures, different minds, different scholars to come together, like what we saw happening at the Medical University of Gunduşapur in Sasanian Persia. And all this knowledge was then gathered in the work that we see here. Now, as historians, we tend to like narratives. We like an idea of a linear accumulation from the past to the present. But when we especially look at scientific development, what we see is almost always a very complex process where the passing on of knowledge, the exchange of ideas is highly complex and very dynamic, and usually happens in places like Gunduşapur, where many different people and cultures come together. And this accumulative knowledge, in this case, has ended up in a very important work that has truly revolutionized medical science, such as we know it today.